Very good evening. It's just coming up on 10 o'clock British summertime. I'm Justin McCartney, and the whiskey guru himself is to my left, some 45 miles away. How far away are you at the minute, Marty? I don't know, something like that.
I'm sure it's 30 anyway.
30, something like that there. So tonight we've actually gotten in the time machine and we've gone right back to the days when everything was politically incorrect and men were men and women were women. And we've got a bit of everything tonight. We've got the kitchen sink basically tonight, don't we?
Well, what we did, I decided we would do advertising, and it kind of covers a whole. It kind of covers a whole sort of shall we say, development process. And then it's kind of arched back and said, well, we'll get to that at a later juncture. So we will.
So what are we going to start with? Because you've had a busy week. You were at the Belfast Whiskey Week 2020. Yeah. Well, virtually you were there. You were actually there in person.
But, I'm there in spirit and soul. No, on Monday I did a sort of marathon whiskey tasting. It was 15. It was an introduction to Irish whiskey. And if anyone doesn't know, Belfast Whiskey Week has been running all week. It finishes tonight, actually. And it was, my part was I did the introduction to Irish whiskey. So it was 15 whiskey producers, 19 whiskey tastings. It was 6.5 hours. So quite a long stint, and a fairly decent shift. But I think everybody liked it. It was good crack. I think the whole festival has been really, really good. And I think in some ways, because of what's happened with the lockdown and so on, in some ways it was actually maybe better in certain respects than doing it live. Although next year, fingers crossed, there'll be certainly a lot more live events. But it worked. It worked for what it was supposed to do.
I must admit the online banter was well, the crack was mighty, as we would say. So tell me this, Powers Dublin Whiskey. What's wrong with that advert?
Nothing. These are the original adverts. Now, when you think about it, the old adverts, really the only way a whiskey brand could make itself known was pretty much in a newspaper advert. So the old ones from really through the 19th century were literally just Powers whiskey written out and printed in a newspaper. Normally, what happened at that point was the distillery sold the whiskey to bars or hospitality establishments, essentially. So they sold them to them, and then they rectified them in some way. Normally, that's what they did. So what would have happened was the likes of Powers made an advert, or the bar made an advert saying that they had got in 6 gallons of Cumber whiskey. So you just change that over. So this was the standard advert. This one that you've just put up is actually slightly further forward. This was the advent then of printing a bottle to look like what the bottle looked like. This was more to do then with the distillery themselves bottling their own product. Okay. Now there's an earlier one there from Dunville's, where it's Napier and Dunville. Yeah, you see, there's Dunville's there as well.
Yeah.
You see this sort of mismatch of old adverts. Now, there's some of them sort of stand out a little bit more. Dunville's there, you can see just at the top left-hand corner. Again, all of these old adverts, they're very sort of plain, have a very sort of similar style to them. The bottles don't look that much.
It does exactly what it says in the tin, basically.
Pretty much. They were very limited in what they could do. They were essentially just stating that this is what we do. Now, there wasn't a huge amount of imagination in it. As I say, it really is just, this is what they do. Okay? And that pretty much happened all the way through the 19th century and into the 20th. So they had these works, these sort of drawings, very basic, the only other way that they would have had really of advertising their wares would have been they would have put it up on the side of a wall. Now, the one you've just brought up there now, Napier and Dunville, that's the oldest one, and that's really from really way back. Again, Coleraine, 60,000 gallons, blah blah blah. That's essentially what they did. So these old adverts, they were just sort of your standard advert. When we move on a little bit further, they start to become a little bit more, shall we say, stereotypical. They start to develop their own kind of style. What I mean by that is you start to get towards the later ones, the likes of this, your Highland Fling, tartan wearing Highlander with his skin do. This became sort of the typical whiskey ad for Scotland. In Ireland, it was Paddy on an Irish with shamrocks all about the place. So,
Marty, that looks like you. That looks like you.
is he drunk? If anybody doesn't know the story of Paddy whiskey, I had a tasting of it on Monday. The story of Paddy whiskey is actually really, really worth finding out. But the reason it's called Paddy, it was named after a salesman called Paddy Flaherty. It's really, really worth finding out about. But this, you can see these sort of stereotypical Paddy, the Irishman, and Scotch, the Scottish Highlander, with his, his claymore and his wee Scotty dog and all this kind of stuff. This is really what all came in and around the sort of 40s, 50s, 60s. Certainly these are a little bit later because they're in colour. But that's the sort of stereotypical advert. And it kind of became that stereotype that people just associate it with these brands. They weren't really telling you anything about them. They weren't really telling you anything about what it was. They were just sort of setting out the sort of stereotypes, I mean, old Angus there with the sheep in below his arm, and you could just imagine with a crook and that, just, yeah. But that's the way they were. Now, one of the game changers was Johnnie Walker. I'll just move that out of the way. There's a reason I put that there, I must say later on. We have Johnnie Walker, okay? Now, Johnnie Walker was established in 1820, but in 1908 they adopted this striding man. Now, Johnnie Walker was an actual man. John Walker was a grocer who sold. After his father died, he inherited a grocery shop, and they sold some whiskey. Now, they adopted this striding man, a man called Tom Brown, did the first drawing of this on a napkin, and they adopted this as a sort of symbol. Now you can see in this graphic here, you can see the evolution of it.
It's been around a long time, Marty, hasn't it?
He has, and he's kind of went through a number of different developments, but it's still essentially the same thing. Now, you have this was now a recognisable brand, and long before you had sort of lots of other recognisable, Ronald McDonald and that kind of thing, you had Johnnie Walker. Now, to give you an idea of the power of advertising, Johnnie Walker, obviously, I mean, it's a good product, without question. But Johnnie Walker is the best-selling Scotch in the world by a considerable margin. To put it into Ballantine's, which you had on screen there a second ago, is the second best-selling Scotch in the world.
Yeah.
Okay? It sells 89 million bottles a year.
That's a
Roughly.
lot. That's a lot.
A lot. That's a huge amount. The number one, that's number two. So Johnnie Walker, number one, sells 227 million.
So it's not even close.
It's not even close, or anywhere next or near close. Johnnie Walker sells almost over a quarter of a billion bottles a year. Which, you think about that, that's unbelievable. But you can't say that the branding and the marketing doesn't matter, because it really does. It makes a huge impact on the whole thing. And because of Johnnie Walker and the strutting man, it's became a very recognisable brand. Now it's owned by Diageo now, as nearly everything else is, but they own various distilleries, and they inherited that when they bought Johnnie Walker. It is massively famous, and that style of branding, you can kind of see that evolution into a much more stylized thing now, where it's a little bit more updated, and every so often it goes through a periodic change. But you can see why that would have caught on. You know, it's a very sort of stylized image, instantly recognizable. Johnnie Walker, well, it sort of again does what it says in the tin, but it does it in a graphic form.
Well, I better get round to doing some of the comments tonight, because there's been double figures of them already tonight, and we've only been on 10 minutes. Mark Kerr says, "Walk the walk."
Walk the walk. Yes. There's some other adverts later. I'll talk at the end about some of the other adverts.
Who else is saying hello? Trevor Watson is saying hello from Fermanagh. Remember, if you're watching, make sure you go to Irish Whiskey Review's Facebook page. Just go on Facebook, type in Irish Whiskey Review. You'll go to the Prime stream on Irish Whiskey Review. And we do have a new YouTube channel as well, which we'll get you to follow later on tonight. But as well as that, Julie says, "Evening, Marty and Justin. What a great topic tonight." Yeah, fantastic topic it is tonight. And listen, I've got to go and show you this hat again. Peter McCabe says, "Paddy's hat is much better than yours, Justin." We did go back and find Paddy's hat here. There, yes. Is that a Tam O'Shanter, that hat? Is it?
No.
Is that a bowler?
I think so. I don't know. I am prepared to stand correct. You're the hat expert, Justin.
Listen, I'm not a milliner. I thought you were a whiskey guru, and you don't know what the hat is.
I'm not a hat guru. You're the one that has brought the hat into play during our conversations.
All right.
I don't know. That's not a Tam O'Shanter, but I think it's more like a bowler style hat.
Okay.
But no, you're the hat expert. I bow to your superior knowledge on all things hattage. You know.
And Tomo Murphy says hello as well. Hello to you, Tomo. If you have any questions about Marty, if you want to slag us off or comment on the adverts and the paraphernalia and all the rest of it, it's pretty weird stuff tonight. What have we got coming up next? Because we've got to keep this going, because we've got a photograph a minute to get through, and we're 15 minutes in, so we need to get a move on from Johnnie Walker to this stuff. They used to have these great things in all bars, clubs, and restaurants, things like that.
Yeah, this sort of paraphernalia. This was another way of getting your branding out. What they did was they produced lots of stuff really for bars and pubs, which they gave to the barmen. And they would have given the likes of ashtrays, match strikers, whiskey jugs. I don't tend to have a lot of this stuff. In fact, I've very little of it. But the likes of these sort of Bushmills jugs. But that was another way of getting your brand out, to get it set up. But probably the most expensive were the whiskey mirrors. Now, you'll see these, if you ever go to the Duke of York up in Belfast, you'll see them there. You'll see them up in Orpheus. Now, you see that one you have on screen? Just hold that there for a little second. The mirrors are now all of this stuff's very collectible, but the mirrors are the big expensive ones. The one you have on screen is up for auction in, I think it's Wednesday week. So I think it's maybe the something like the 11th. That sounds about right. Victor Mee Auctions. Now this is from the Nuns Island Distillery, which closed many months ago. This is extremely rare. Now, if you are interested in these, you'll have to have very deep pockets, because the estimate for this, and I'm going to say it'll go for a little bit more than that, the estimate for it is between 8 and 12,000 euro.
No.
Yes. A Mitchell's Christine Lawn whiskey mirror sold last year, or sorry, 2 years ago, for 11,500 euro. Now, if you ever go up, as I say, if you ever go up into the likes of Orpheus, which is the one above the Heart Bar, still owned by Willie Jack, he has lots of these, and he keeps the best ones for up in there. And he has extremely valuable walls, was probably the best way I could put that. They are tens of thousands of pounds worth of glass hanging up on the wall, including a couple of absolutely magnificent ones for McAllister's in Ballymena, which I'm very envious of. But they are extremely expensive and getting more and more expensive by the day. So if you get,
what about wee jugs like that there, and trays like that? I sold an ashtray the other day, a Carlsberg ashtray, and I got a few quid for it too, and I thought it was worthless, you know.
Well, you see, the likes of those wee trays, if you go on to eBay, there's a lot of those up for sale. These will not be hugely expensive, but you're still probably talking, 30, 40, 50 pound. The likes of the old Humber tray there, probably in excess of £100.
What's that? Tin and sort of, well, it's not galvanized, it's got ceramic on it, does it? Yeah.
Enamel.
I mean, there's actually a John Player special sign for cigarettes like that shape, and I know they're 200 to 250 quid themselves.
Really, it's the same as everything else, Justin. A Hague ashtray might be worth a fiver, but there's probably one out there that's extremely rare, which is going to be worth an awful lot more money. All depends if someone's prepared to pay for it. But all of the stuff is worth a few pounds. That's probably about 30, 40 pounds. And there's hundreds of these about. As I say,
just hold that one in, and I'll zoom in on it for people. Wow, right, very nice. I've never seen that one before.
Yeah, but they brought out loads of these, and this would have sat in a bar. You still find them in pretty much every old Irish bar where they add water to your whiskey. But this was their branding. This was them putting it up there, getting the bars to take it. It's not dissimilar to what happens today.
Right.
Many certain bars, a couple of them in Belfast that have had makeovers in the last little while. You'll see lots of branding from the likes of Bushmills and so on, who have partially paid for the upgrade of these things. So that's kind of what they did. But as I say, if you have any of this paraphernalia, do check out what it's worth, because it might surprise you just how much some of it is worth.
Here's a very good comment that's come in, Marty. You can buy a lot of whiskey for a 10,000 odd euro mirror.
Well, that all depends.
You wouldn't have been able to buy very much of that PX today because it all went like that.
Dunville's PX, bottle number 2.
You've drunk half of it already?
No, that's bottle number 1. Well, bottle number 2 went and released today, and there was 300 and something bottles, and they sold out in 6 minutes. So they did, and good on them, because they deserve it. They fabulous brand. But there was a whiskey released this week, Mark. Teelings have released a 37-year-old single malt, and they're looking €7,000 for it.
Wow! So you would only be able to buy 1 or 2 for that kind of money.
Yeah, well, as long as you get one at sort of bargain price, because you can buy 2 of them. But there's lots of this collectible stuff, and certainly the Irish whiskey stuff is becoming more and more collectible. So do do check out how much it's worth, because it might surprise a lot of people.
So
Yeah.
So one of the things that they used to do, and it's sort of gone in and come away again, and there's that great movie Lost in Translation, which Bill Murray should have got the Oscar for. Scarlett Johansson was in it, just being herself, smoldering, and celebrities were used quite a lot to endorse things, weren't they?
Yes, they do. Lots of celebrity endorse. This is an old practice method. Now you've up Joe Louis. And I put Joe Louis, and there's one by Jack Dempsey, because whiskey always wanted to appear manly and sort of butch, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Proper 12. What does that mean? Yeah.
Yeah. This is Conor McGregor's whiskey. Yes. Now, all of these other bottles are open. This one isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know them? Do you know why?
Because it'll be worth money one day.
No, because it's awful.
Hey, hold on a minute here. I think it's brilliant, and I haven't tasted it.
Yeah. Well, put it like this. He chinned an old boy because the old boy wouldn't drink it. I don't know what he's going to do to the whiskey reviewers, because pretty much everyone I know think it's awful. I've a friend down in the North Coast who, well, he's a hard man to please, and what he calls it as proper number 2, and he used it as toilet paper.
Boy, you are bad. You are absolutely terrible.
Yes, trust me, very, very bad.
So there's other people. I mean, who's this? Old Crow? Who's that endorsing that?
That's Mark Twain. Now, Mark Twain, lovely. Mark Twain's family, from originally from the province. The Clements were from up round near Ballycastle direction. So he liked his Irish whiskey. On the ulsterwhiskey.com Facebook page, I have a little quote from Mark Twain up there, because I do think he's hilariously funny. It is just they get obviously it's the same as everyone else. They get famous people to come in and do whiskies. So you have Joe Louis, you have one of Jack Dempsey there, but you also have Bob Dylan. He makes a whiskey. Orson Welles there. Bob Dylan makes Heaven.
Who's that name with Orson Welles? You think you could have pulled somebody better than that?
I don't know, but I think you're being a bit on PC there yourself now, Justin. I think that's...
No, I'm just being honest. And it looks a bit like you and Drag, actually, Marty.
Justin, you know what Conor McGregor done to that old boy?
Oh boy, I tell you, what a classic. What else have we got? There's Jack Dempsey's there.
Jack Dempsey. Now, Bob Dylan, Metallica have their own brand out, blackened whiskey.
Hey, there's
Sean Bond's always going to have one. If you're going to get somebody to endorse it, Sean Connery would be. He's going to be the guy you would want.
He's 90 now. Do you know that?
I think he's in a bad way. If I'm totally honest, I don't think he's very fit. But spending all his life on the Bahamas, crying for Scottish independence. I think about anyway. I guess. Rappers run on it now. So Drake, the Canadian rapper, he has a brand called Virginia Black, and probably this is not necessarily a big celebrity that people would know, but a guy called Walton Goggins, who's an actor.
Never heard of him.
Well, you see, if you've ever watched a show called Justified, it's just fabulous. Don't go too far on. Stay in the thing. Yeah. It's if you ever watch Justified, he plays a guy in it, and it's a fabulous show. I absolutely adore it. But I will just touch on this as well. This is the Pogues, the band, the Pogues. They're single malt.
He's had his teeth done, and he doesn't look right.
Aye. Well, he could do with getting his whiskey done as well, because this isn't great either.
We're getting some comments in tonight about the celebrities. Trevor Watson says you're working well tonight. We're going to get them done over. Mark Kerr's laughing. And he's saying it's absolutely awful whiskey. Remember to comment, like, and share if you're enjoying the show. Shows your friends. Could you hit that share button, hit that like button, and hit the comment button on the Irish Whiskey Review live stream. So, how your waist, Justin? That's what Mark says. I tell you. Oh boy, Julie says the banter and the adverts is unbelievable. Listen, we haven't got the best adverts tonight, Julie. We haven't got the adverts that involve women. They're good.
Okay. They are good. They're so bad they're good. That's probably a putting it. But we'll do. I think this story's hilarious. Duffy's, right? A man called Walter Duffy bought the Rochester distillery, and he started labeling it as being medicinal, right? Now, he said that this was in about the 1870s. He bought the company. So this is around the turn of the 19th, 20th century. And he said it was whiskey, but it was pure malt, but it was medicinal. And he claimed to have saved 40 million lives or something. There's one of the adverts. 4 million lives he saved with it. Right? Now, he said it was endorsed by medical professionals, doctors, nurses, wrestlers, people who were 103 or 108. And he had all these, but none of these people were actually ministers. None of them were doctors or nurses or anything. So what he did was he ended up, he got sued. And he got sued for libel because he just used photos of random people. And this girl said, I'm not a nurse and I don't drink whiskey. So she sued him for libel. Now, it ended up, it went to the Supreme Court and he lost. But he came out better than he was. But he came out better than he went in.
I know, because he sold more even though he had to pay the expense of the thing.
Right.
Yeah.
He declared a bit of the thing bankrupt and did all that kind of jazz. And he just picked these two random women and said they were nurses that thought his whiskey cured him of all manner of ailments. Now he said that it could cure influenza, gripe, malaria, all of this stuff, and it was all just nonsense. But
so somebody, Mark Kerr says, does it cure COVID? And where can I buy a bottle of Duffy's? Is Duffy still about, Marty?
I don't think it is. If it is, it's maybe going to make a reappearance again. But Duffy's, you see one there. They weren't the only one at it. Now you'll see there, jumping through. This here's whiskey and quinine.
That might have a. I mean, I'm not saying it does, but there was somebody saying stuff to do with malaria, and malaria spray was sort of partially effective against the coronavirus.
Absolutely, it could very well be. But the thing, what happened with Duffy's and some of the other ones that were doing this, including Jameson. Jameson declared that they were like a medicinal product as well. What was a man called Samuel Hopkins Adams wrote an article. He wrote a series of articles called "The Great American Fraud" in 1905, and he pointed out that Duffy's and all these other, but we would call now sort of snake oil salesmen. They were guys who made these outlandish claims that these things could cure all manner of stuff, and so on and so forth. When the reality was, whiskey has a medicinal properties, but I'll get to that in a little minute. But
hey, there's a fantastic one there: chicken cock aged in wood for medicinal use. There's a lot of women would like that.
Oh dear. No, it's one of those things that makes these outlandish claims. So in 1906, the US government brought in the Pure Food and Drug Act, basically saying that you had to have at least some medical backup. You had to have some. You can't just say, "Oh, whiskey cures TB and colic." You know, you can't do this. So they brought in that. There was lots of other stuff. It was about the importation of different foods and stuff like that as well. But I mean, the reason Duffy's was sold in a brown bottle was because it was meant to look like a medicine. Duffy actually got his whiskey sanctioned as a medicine, which meant even though it was basically pure whiskey, it meant he didn't have to pay any liquor taxes on it.
He's a smart cookie, so he was still selling it and making money on it anyway.
Well, Hopkins Adams actually wrote in his treatise that this stuff pretends to cure lung and throat illnesses when it doesn't. And it's especially liked by people in the temperance movement.
Yes, I know. The hypocrites, you mean, the hypocrites. Listen, we're halfway through tonight. We better give a mention to where you can find the archive of all the videos, because it gets hard to find on Facebook. So you've set up this fantastic new YouTube page, and it's called
Irish Whiskey Review.
There it is there. And it is all of the dozen or so last broadcasts are there. And that's where you should go if you want to sort of catch up on them. Make sure you subscribe, hit the subscribe button. Subscribing doesn't cost any money. It just means you can find all the videos there and the latest one. And you can also watch it live there if you want as well. Simple as that. That's how to do it. Remember to comment, like, and share this stream so all your friends and family and whiskey colleagues get to know about this as well. Where are we heading next, Marty? Because we're heading into the sort of the bizarre field.
No, I need to stay on the whiskey medicinal thing, because I'm making light of this. But whiskey was, during Prohibition, and we've touched on this before, whiskey was prescribed. Now, don't be going to the bizarre ones just yet, Justin.
Okay, yep.
Whiskey was prescribed as a medicine, really as for medicinal purposes. But there's lots of advocates for this. For example, Nikola Tesla said that whiskey, if he drank whiskey in certain measures, would keep him alive till he was 150. He didn't live to 150, but I mean, Churchill drank a lot of Johnny Walker, actually, pretty much all day. The oldest living person in Britain was a woman called Grace Kelly, or Grace Jones. Sorry, Grace Jones. I got mixed up between the movie star and the 1980s singer. Grace Jones. She said that drinking whiskey was what kept her living until she was 113. I think she lived to. And a man called Henry Allingham, who was the oldest man to have to live longest after the First World War. He was the last surviving person who had fought at the Battle of Jutland. He lived to 113, and I do love people when they say stuff like this. He was asked when he was like 110 what had kept him going so long, and he said cigarettes, whiskey, and very bad women. Like this man, you know. So so whiskey. I know certain people whose doctors have told them if you drink a little bit of whiskey, it's quite good for you. It's very good for you in some regards. Too much, obviously, drink responsibly, but it does have a sort of tonic effect. So it does. Now, we'll head over to some of the more bizarre and hopefully we'll do the bizarre ones and then a bit more of the utterly horrendously sexist ones.
I didn't actually think these were real, Marty, but they actually are real.
Yes. Who wears the trousers? And it shows you a man and a woman standing on the left-hand side.
She's got no pants on. She's no pants on.
And then she turns around and she has to take her pants off. Who on earth thought this was a good idea? I mean, it's just utterly bizarre. I mean, what on earth were they thinking? I mean, these days, if you come out with something like that, you would quite rightly be absolutely ridiculed and probably jailed. I mean, it's nuts. There's another one there.
Hold on, I want to say it. The good guys are always on the white horse. Did you like that? Did you like that one?
Oh, it's just cringe beyond belief. There's one there, the Johnny Walker one.
Let me fake it. Find it. Oh, hold on. Even a lady could learn to like soft whiskey. It's not hard. Oh boy! I didn't read that one before. Listen. Ofcom's going to be at us after, even for showing this. I can't keep a straight face.
Oh, I know, they're horrendous, absolutely horrendous. But there's another one, the Johnny Walker one. This is drink Old Hickory. You can keep your man sort of thing. I don't know what they're supposed to be doing.
Well, Old Hickory is actually, obviously, if you look closely, it is the seventh president of the United States of America, Andrew Jackson. There he is, who hails from Carrickfergus. There you go. Do we have what's this one? That's a soft one again. Pick up a teacher. Pick up a teacher. Hold on a minute here. Julie Mason thinks the YouTube channel looks great. Love the new logo. Pick up a teacher. There you go.
Pick up a teacher. Now, it just so happens that the teacher was wearing a miniskirt. Well, who was thinking these were good ideas? So basically, this is offensive in so many levels because you've got the Scottish guy wearing a kilt and a tam o' shanter. basically abducting a teacher who's dressed like she's going to a Halloween party. It's just awful. I mean, who thought these were a good idea?
I don't know, but some of them are good. I've got, what's that? Oh, listen, what about this? Never go to a bachelor's pad alone. There you go. That looks like a group. That looks like a group of a particular sex there. That definitely does. Definitely does. That's far out, Marty. I can hardly believe that.
The implication is don't go to a bachelor's house because something might happen to you. Never go. Horrendous.
What is this here? Every man should have an imp. Is that not a car? He can call it one.
It's just awful. And it's nowhere near the worst. I mean, we're heading towards the worst one, which is just.
It's a prostitute.
Yeah. Now, this is a historic one because whiskey and prostitution. I touched on this in the whiskey and women one. So this was part to do with the one of the reasons the prohibition was able to pass was because there is this association between whiskey and the separation of the sort of family, but you also had then this the idea that the medicinal stuff was ridiculed and all these false accusations and claims. So the prostitution thing, they decided that the best way for whiskey to be marketed was by associating it with prostitution, which is probably not a great way to go, to be honest. But I mean, they're just horrendous. Now, there's loads of these, but do you have the Evan Williams one?
Is that it?
Yes. This is the one. This is so wrong on so many levels.
It's not even the same person. It's just before aging and after aging. Evan Williams. Oh, hold on. I have to do this one in my advert voice because it says, "The longer you wait, the better it gets." Evan Williams, aged longer to taste smoothest.
I mean, it's basically like, oh, hang on. if you drink Evan Williams, you don't have to be a paedophile. Is that, I mean, that's basically what they're saying.
I don't know, but it's pretty bizarre. But obviously, the girl in the picture must be over the age of legal consent to drink in the market. Saying we hope, because I don't want the Federal Advertising Standards Agency to come and look at me. I believe they're quite busy in Portland, Oregon tonight. But anyway, let me see. I had a helmet imp. Not too many women chased me. Then maybe again, not the car.
He should have, whatever one. It's that Southern Comfort, was it, that I put up? It's just, I think I put down a few of these, but there's loads of these sort of horrifically sexist adverts where it is just like, you're a man, you can drink whiskey and kidnap women. Awful.
Peter McCabe thinks with my voice, good luck with the James Bond editions. Thank you very much. The name's Bond. James Bond. I can't do it. You see, I need the toupee to have the hair. Let me see. Listen, this is what Julie says. Those are so bad, all you can do is laugh. Yeah, that's all you can do. Yeah. And Frank Hearn says, the problem is what's good for you and what you drink. Yes, that's true. And Mark Kerr's asking tonight, we may or may not have time tonight because we've got we've got about 18 more. No, we've got 12 more photographs to get through. Mark Kerr says he sees a bottle of Silky there, Marty. If you get a chance, what do you think of it? Okay, so he's probably going to get to that tonight at some time. Where are we heading now, Marty?
We're probably going to go to some just sort of bizarre ones. I mentioned that there's a Johnny Walker one, and some of the bizarre ones. Basically, it's this guy. Basically, he's holding a bottle of Red Label, and it's fake it through the day. So, I mean, the implication here is just drink Johnny Walker all day and nobody will know. Do it in secret. So, but would that make you buy a bottle of that whiskey? No, of course it wouldn't. Because, well, drinking whiskey all day and looking as sozzle-eyed as this agent is probably not a good way of doing things, But, no. And there's a few other sort of really bizarre ones there.
Let me see. What idiot changed the Chivas Regal bottle again?
Yeah. I mean, I don't really understand.
That's negative advertising and against yourself. Sometimes that can work. I think one of the tired people said, we're the other people, and they had a very similar name to the other company. And somebody else had slightly negative advertising. I think it was one of the car rental ones. I
don't think that's going to work.
No, it probably doesn't work, that one. Let me see. Prepare to be underwhelmed. That's negative advertising for Four Roses Premium. Four Roses Premium.
Yeah.
And they most certainly are.
Sitting there,
bizarre. Yeah.
In Cardigan, trying to advert. They sort of went from Joe Louis boxer fighters through to horrendously sexist to you can drink Four Roses and play a piano in a cardigan. They sort of take a massive swing.
Yeah.
This one here.
What's that? Smooth Canadian.
I just think it's a bit. She could have put her hand in a less strategic place, I think. Do you know what I mean? It's this macho man with the girl draped over. It looks like she.
He's a mountie on a white horse. He's a mountie on a white horse, Marty. What was this one here? Bushmills, the whiskey that spans the generations gap. I see what they're trying to do there, but it doesn't really work, that does it? So that's going back to a dandy in the 1660s or something like that. There
again, it is just a bit bizarre, if I'm honest. I don't really, but it's not bad. The Evan Williams one's just horrific. I mean, it's like,
Yeah,
give me
it definitely is. That definitely comes under the category sexist. Yeah, and this next one definitely comes under the category of bizarre. So,
yeah.
yeah, there's some real bizarre ones there. We better run through some of the comments tonight before we
Yeah.
go full circle. Sláinte bottoms up. That seems pretty normal to me. That one.
Yeah, but this is by Brown Forman, and it's about talking about Brian Boru, and it's Kentucky whiskey, and I don't know what it's supposed to be, like Irish whiskey, but it's bourbon. And Brian Boru, I mean, I would imagine, with the best will in the world, most people in the States aren't going to know who Brian Boru was. Excuse me. So
you better explain to people who Brian Boru was, because he was actually the father of. No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. You tell them. That's
he was
wrong.
he was the end up he was the king of all Ireland. He expelled the Vikings from Ireland, so he's very well. Battle of Clontarf, and he's buried up in Armagh. So he was a very famous Irish king. So what he's got to do with bourbon is really beyond me. But anyway.
All right. There's James Moira Doherty saying it's Eric Morecambe. That must mean you're Ernie Wise, Marty.
No, that's the Johnny Walker one. You know, the guy with the that boy.
It looks a bit like Tom Hanks, but he wasn't about then. That's just a generic actor. I'm not sure that's anybody famous.
No, I think it's Eric.
And then Peter McCabe says, I didn't realize James Bond was from County Antrim. No. I think he's from Invergordon or somewhere like that. And James Moira Doherty has to add in the toupee never stopped. Toupee never stopped Connery. No. Yeah, you have to laugh. You have to laugh at those ones. You do. It's rather bizarre stuff that's gone on over the years, you know. So where do we get to go now? Where do we get to go now? Anywhere fantastic, because we've gone full circle. We've got about 10 minutes left tonight, so we can squeeze a few more in.
What I want to talk about. It's now kind of come a little bit full circle again, especially in the Irish whiskey category, because you now have these, I call them Lazarus brands. They're brands that sort of hark back to Irish whiskey brands that disappeared, that people have bought over and resurrected again, I feel like. So you have a couple of pictures of McConnell's, I think, which was a Belfast brand. This is the new bottle, and there is an old bottle, and you can see how they've just sort of copied pretty much exactly the same labelling. Tyrconnell is another one that's done this, and also Dunville's, which I think have copied the bottling and everything. Nope, you're going a bit far.
I want to save that one till the end.
Yes. Basically, what's happened is to give, and in some regards, I can totally see why they do it, but I think a lot of people need to sort of stop doing it, bringing back these old labels as such, because to me it seems, for big companies, certainly it seems a little bit lazy to have to resurrect these old brands, but they're bringing back kind of the same styling, the same lettering, the same.
Problem is, Marty, if you wanted to call something, if you were to come up with the name of a whiskey, a brand new name,
yeah,
the amount of money, time, and effort you would have to put into that in just focus groups alone and trying to find a name. Like, we should have a competition. Name a new whiskey.
Name a new whiskey. I mean, the thing is, there's ways of doing it and there's ways not to do it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I totally get why people do it. It gives a sort of instant history, if you like. The way Dunville's do it's really good. Tyrconnell it pays homage to the whole thing as well. But you have these resurrection brands, these brands that have, if you like, come back from the grave, and they are all popping up. But I discovered one that probably won't pop up anytime soon. The Frankfurt distillery.
I
So
think
I was
it,
doing,
I think it will, Marty. It'll definitely that'll make a comeback.
don't see it making any comeback anytime soon. Swastika whiskey.
Well, you do know in somewhere like India that would go down well because they have the swastika going the other way, or is that the
Yeah,
right way? I can never remember which way. That's the Nazi way, but if it goes the other way, that's a religious symbol from India of some sort.
yeah. It's a Hindu and Buddhist symbol, and it basically meant if you like, the wheel of life. But I don't see that. I think that's become a bit of a toxic brand. If I'm totally honest, Justin, you're going to have to spend an awful lot on focus groups to bring that back again. You're going to have to. You're going to have to be one charming man to get that back. So I don't see it coming anytime soon.
It would,
But
yeah. There's the old bottle there. Look at that one there. Swastika whiskey, bottled in Bod, the Frankfurt Distillery, Louisville, Kentucky.
that's what
Yeah,
just no. I don't see it coming back anytime soon. But
I don't
see,
really.
there is these old bottlings that are coming back, and that you can see why they're doing it. You know, so that's kind of a quick skip through the whole uh, advertising. I know there's not the most detailed, but it's just a bit of a laugh as much as anything else. But there are some new whiskey adverts that are really, really, really good, and some other bizarre ones as well. I'll put the Macallan one where you have like Icarus flying about is just beyond bizarre. The Glendalough one for St. Kevin is like a mini Game of Thrones episode. It's brilliant. So we'll put both of those in the comments below this. You know, we'll post them below it. They're on YouTube, and they are the Glendalough one. I think is really good. It's really dramatic.
I think I touched that on that one before.
Mhm.
Here's one here. It says Frank Hearn says rebrand Frank's FN whiskey.
Frank,
Frank's FN whiskey. Don't know what.
Frank,
Don't Frankenfurter's whiskey. I don't get that one. Frank. Oh, you mean you want it rebranded with your name, Frank Hearn's whiskey? Oh,
um,
hey, oh, fancies it himself. All right,
yeah,
yeah, you can get away with that. You could call it. You could call it Frankenstein whiskey, and that would work.
yeah. Maybe not Anne Frank whiskey. That would probably be a better one. You could get away with selling it. You know.
Probably could. I think her museum and estate would have something to say about that. Well,
Oh,
that must have been one of the most bizarrest weeks we've ever had, Marty.
now, just while we're here, I want to congratulate James Docherty for this week. The Silky decided they got their stills running, and they distilled their own whiskey this week. So, big round of applause. This isn't the Silky. This is the dark Silky. All right. This is a mixture of peated malt whiskey, unpeated malt whiskey, and also grain whiskey. It's very good. It's very good, and it, like the ordinary Silky, this is growing on me even more. When I opened the first bottle of Silky, I was kind of indifferent to it, but as I went down it, it seemed to get better and better and better. And this is kind of doing the same thing. So a big round of applause. James has now become the 33rd whiskey distillery in Ireland. So big round of applause. Well done.
That's pretty good. Pretty good going there.
Yes.
You don't have that one that Mark Kerr wants you to try tonight, do you? Handy, do you know?
It's the Silky. Yeah. That's the one.
Give
Right.
it a twirl and give us your experience of it.
I reviewed this a couple of weeks ago, and I give it a 7 out of 10. I would probably give it an extra mark now because I like it more since I wrote the article. I think it's very, very good. The dark is better than the other one. It's a bit of a mismatch, or a bit of mashup of different styles of whiskey. And in some ways, you kind of think it shouldn't work. I compare it to like a jazz band. Everybody's sort of doing their own thing, but it works quite well at times. I'm not a big jazz fan, but that's what I sort of compared it to. But it works. It's very good.
Okay, and if you want to go there, obviously you can find there's their page, Sleeve League there as well. That's how to find it. That's their lovely Facebook page there. It's good news, 33. I mean, there's an entire year's worth of programming. If we were to go around every single one of them, we would we would take us a long time to visit all these fantastic distilleries, Marty, wouldn't it?
The rate they're opening up at, it could be like painting the Fourth Bridge. We could be on. We could be like Kane and Kung Fu, Kung Fu series. We could be on the road for forever.
Yeah. There's a lot of good comments coming in here. There's Mark Kerr saying, "Wow, 33rd. I have to say, I bought a bottle and quite enjoyed it." That's a good endorsement. Bear in mind that everything that appears on here, it isn't paid for. It isn't endorsed. Unfortunately, we don't have a new Mercedes. It's a new Audi sitting out the front. No, we don't have any of that. We're doing this for the kudos of keeping whiskey in the zeitgeist of the moment.
I'm a bit about half too. I like to keep these things light-hearted. If we can get a laugh going, that's the main objective. If we can have a bit of information and a bit of a crack and a laugh is about hope for,
Exactly. So we're going to wrap up here unless you have any last minute questions. We'll run through the final of the mentions coming in because there's a wee bit of a delay on that, we've noticed. Trevor Watson says, wonderful show tonight. Thanks and cheers. Yep, bottoms up to you. Peter McCabe says, great show tonight. And there's James. Yeah, Moira Doherty saying thank you. Thank you very much for that. And then another one coming in tonight. What's this? A suggestion? Justin and Marty in a camper van touring all the Irish distilleries would make a great TV show. There you go. There you go. So Alley Cats TV. There you go. If you want us to do the TV show, we're available. All right.
We're available.
I don't really find in a camper van in this this is weather for whiskey indoors. This isn't it tonight.
I think what we should do, Justin, is get one of those traveller caravans with a horse and cart at the front. Me and you, one of them, heading around the country, drinking whiskey. That'll be an adventure.
I don't know because I actually hate horses, and I don't particularly like caravans. Although I would fancy a boat. We could get on a super yacht and go around the Scottish Islands and do the Scottish distilleries. Now that appeals to me. That appeals to me. I must admit.
I think we're more likely to get the horse and cart, if I'm honest.
Here, listen, a small camper van, though, to create some tension and crack. Marty would be staying in the camper van, and I'd be staying in the nearest hotel. That's what would be happening. There's Yelfer saying, tons of fun. I'd buy a whiskey called Silky. Yes. Shall we explain what a Silky is, Marty? Does people know what a Silky is?
Silky is basically it's kind of like a mermaid found in Donegal. They're found all over the place. This legend's found all over the place, and they used to lure sailors down in. Come to me, Personally, I've never been drunk enough. Well, I'll say that, but I don't think I've ever been drunk enough where I would go in with a half woman, half fish. But I wouldn't
you're not going to believe it. Somebody's actually volunteered the camper van for us. Yes, my sister has a camper van, but luckily she's going to France in it for a month. So we don't have a camper van at our disposal. So she wouldn't let me in anyway. She'd be worried about £100,000 of whiskey being imported from France and our number plates on the vehicle. Oh boy, there we go. Yes, that's about it for tonight. Thank you very much for watching. Remember, we want you to go and to this sort of YouTube page. like it. We need 100 likes before we can label it the Irish Whiskey Review. If you Google my name or Marty's name or whiskey or ulstrawhiskey.com or wherever, you will be able to find it and watch. All the videos are on there. There's a dozen videos in there, and there's a lovely introduction by Marty as well. So that's about it. Say bye-bye, Marty.
Bye-bye.